attending today to this workshop on AI for phenotyping. Our first, just for the speakers, you can have, this is a 15-minute slot. You can have 12 minutes presentation and 3 minutes for questions. When you get to 10 minutes, I'll show you an orange card, so you've got another 2 minutes before wrapping up. We have to, I've been told that we really have to keep this on time. So we have a session that empty at the end. So if you've got extra questions, just meet with the speaker. You need to talk at the end of the session. Okay, well, our first speaker today is Benjamin Ganza. He's going to be talking about estimating canopy height, mixing different ways of measuring. So, Benjamin, when you're ready.
Good morning once again, everyone. And my name is Benjamin Ganza from Texas A&M University. And my supervisor is Dr. Bandari, and I'm in the same lab with Dr. Landiva. So my PhD is in phenotyping crops. And this particular presentation is on using, usually we use UAS in phenotyping, but we want to see if we can extrapolate the methodology to using satellites. So yesterday, for my poster, I did using UAS for the phenotyping. Today, I'm showing how I intend to extrapolate it. So the topic for my presentation is estimating canopy height of crops using restricted deep learning model, ISA 2 photons, and SkySat image. And this is my outline of my study. So, canopy height is an important parameter in precision agriculture. However, obtaining a land scale canopy height of crops remains a very big challenge. Using traditional method is difficult and time-consuming, amid inconsistencies. UAS is also limited to area, as well as there are restrictions and then calibration issues. Though synthetic aperture reader has been used, this method also struggles with precision, vertical precision, especially for cross-specific applications. Nascent studies are now fusing satellite images with satellite LiDAR for a large-scale canopy height estimation. Nonetheless, most of these studies have focused on forest areas and very little attention on crops in general. And most of the models that are used in these studies have their root mean square error, I mean the estimation errors and other metrics were above 2 meters. And this is not so much appropriate to be applied to crops. For example, crops in Texas, where most of them, even from cotton to sorghum, they are all below 2 meters at maturity. So there's the need to look at a sub-meter precision model for estimating canopy height of croplands. So that gave birth to my study that I want to integrate ISA 2 and then SkySat data with deep learning, restricted deep learning model to predict canopy height of for croplands. And the objective is to make sure that I get a sub-meter precision model and also generate land scale scale crop height maps. So for this study, I looked at Briscoe and Centon, which is within the Nueces and then San Patricio counties in South Texas. And then the croplands grown within this landscape include cotton, corn, and then sorghum. And the data that I'm using is the ISA 2 and then SkySat data. And ISA 2, I'm using the ATL03 photon data, which was acquired in July. And then it went through the processes of filtering, normalization, and then thresholding. So the diagram here shows this is the GTL1 on the left and the GTL on the right. And on the background is a sample of the SkySat data where the ISA 2 pass had an overlap. So the overview of the methodology was to use the ISA 2 and then it goes through filtering. And in order to calculate the canopy height, I had to do conversion from ellipsoidal height to autometric height. And then I had to use a particular DEM. So I selected the SRTM DEM in order to compute the canopy height. And then the SkySat also went through a bit of pre-processing, not so much because the SkySat data that we get is already surface reflectance data sets. However, you have to register the data set to make sure that they align, and then you use the RescueNet model to predict the canopy height, wall-to-wall canopy height model for the steady eye. So in a nutshell, this is the methodology that I used. And then in the modeling, I split the data into 70-30, 70 for the training. However, in some cases, as you will see, even with the 30, I did test and then validation. So it was 70, 15, 15. And then I use the RescueNet architecture, which goes through the normal encoding, that's the downsampling and then upsampling. But then the difference between the RescueNet and then the UNet is the regression head, which makes the RescueNet more efficient compared to the UNet model. And then I use the metric that I use include the MSC, the Adam optimizer, the epoch, and the root mean square error in particular is the standard error matrix that I was looking at. So using the ISA2 in itself is a bit of relatively new data set that it is being still explored. So to settle on the best of the data sets, you have to do some kind of work. So what I did was, initially with my filtering approach, I selected all ISA2 heights from 0 to 3 meters. And this is the result that I got. The training root mean square error was below, was 0.38, and then the validation and then test root mean square error between 0.52 and then 0.51. This sound looks a bit good than existing models. And then the regression line, the one-to-one line, the point also scatter well around the one-to-one line. Mind you, there should be a lot of scattering. If you see this, it is ugly because the ISA2 instrument throws around 1 trillion pulses at a time. So the data coming from the ground, coming from anything. So at the end of the day, noise is persistent, or noise definitely appears in the data set. So that's why we might not see everything very close to it. But then at the end of the day, most of the points shows that they are around the one-to-one line. And then this is another sample that I used. So what I did was all values that were less than, all height values that were less than 1.5. What I did was I did 30% random sampling. The reason being that soil has a better reflectivity than vegetating. So most of the photon that is coming about, let's say, so the ratio between soil and then plant when it comes to the reflectivity is around, soil is, let's say, 0.1, 0.3, and then vegetation is 0.1. So it's a matter of like 1 to 3 ratio. So to make sure that I get a balanced data, that's why I screen all those values that are close to the ground. And the scatter plot here looked a bit better than the previous one. Nonetheless, the test metrics actually increased a bit. Okay, so there was a kind of trade-off here. Nonetheless, the distribution of the data is more balanced compared to the first one. And then in the last one, which I used to do the prediction, what I did was all values below 0.5, I took it out. And it gave the best of prediction, and also the scatter plot was better when compared to the previous two. So both the validation and then the test data set were below, were close aligned with the one-to-one line, as well as the metrics. All the values were below 0.5 of a meter. So in the end, I used the last model to do a prediction across the whole of the landscape. And then this is per scene for each of the steady area, that's 17 and then gray score. And each scene is 25 by 25 kilometer square. So in combined, we are looking at an area of 50 kilometer square of an area for this landscape prediction. However, the work is not done because if you look into the model 1, I have not validated these maps. Okay, I have not validated this map. So as part of the next step, I wish to validate the map. Secondly, as you can see, using the 3 different data sampling method, they were all giving, though the values were close, still they were giving different results. So I want to get a very consistent data set to use. So I intend to use develop an algorithm to do the extraction. There is an existing ATL 08 algorithm. I want to look at this and then see how I can use it to, customize it for canopy height for crops only, because currently the ATL 08 is for all different kinds of vegetation. And I have to validate the crop height map, and also I intend to look into the architecture of the rescue unit itself to modify it in order to improve the accuracies. My intention is perhaps, if possible, I should get accuracies or metrics below 0.2 of a meter so that I can use it for phenotyping. So in the end, my model has been able to produce canopy height maps which is below a sub-meter canopy height, and then also the scatter plot also shows that they are following the one-to-one line. And this, for initial stages, I can conclude that indeed the rescue net is suitable for such complex estimation tasks, especially when combined with satellite data. Thank you.
Any question?
Where did you get your ground truth data from?
Currently, I don't have ground truth data in this presentation. Nonetheless, in our studies, as part of other studies, we have used UAS LiDAR to take both LiDAR and then SFM to get ground truth data for some areas. So that's what we intend to use to validate it. But the present study, I didn't include the validation part.
So it's not clear to me the number of epoch you're using. In the first slide you mentioned 30, but then your next slide I think I saw up to 40. But regardless, in either cases, I saw that your training loss is still on the way down at 30 or 40. Do you think you can improve it by running a little bit longer? Because I think it's a concern. Your training is still on the way down, so your validation already improved. But typically, traditionally, you want to have the training the best you can do. Then continue with the next step.
Exactly. I mean, when I ran the initial phase, I saw that there's a lot that I could do. In fact, I had about 18 different results. I only presented 3. And all those look at different scenarios. So the best thing that I picked was, I was doing it in tandem with how does the scatter plot look like, the metrics look like, and all those things. So I just presented this to you, but then what you say is very much valid. And as I mentioned, I intend to look into the architecture of the model itself.
Mm-hmm.
So indeed, I will look at the various scenarios of the input and other metrics, and then see which one will be more optimized for the result. But then thank you very much. And then, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Do you have the coefficient of determination to see how your explains why?
Okay. You see, mine, in fact, I do have it, but then the objective that I wanted to look, I didn't want to populate all the metrics that I extracted. As I said, I was interested in getting height errors of less than a meter. That was the objective. But then in the R square, I have 0.49, I have 0.67, I think the highest I've gotten so far is 0.67, and then the lowest is 0.49. Yes, but then I just didn't. I have it, but then as I said, my objective is look at the error, which are sub-meter errors. That's why I presented only the height errors. Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Well, if we don't have any other questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So much, right? We have Okay, our next speaker, I don't think needs a presentation. He's very well known. He's going to be talking about the future of artificial intelligence and digital twins.
Well, thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking the organizers of this meeting for bringing us together. My name is Juan Landevar. I'm part of this team here. Made out of economists, a bunch of engineers, and then in the middle is our team from Corpus Christi, made out of students from Texas A&M, Kingsville, Texas A&M, and then our staff at the center. So, and what I'd like to do is in this presentation is give you kind of a futuristic view of where we think that the artificial intelligence and this technology is going in Texas agriculture, but mainly focusing on the challenges and opportunities. Okay, this technology, as you all know, has been driven by forces that happened over the last 10 years, mainly, and one of the driving forces is this one here, that is the rise of big data in agriculture. If you think 10 years back, we didn't have, these capabilities, but this is mainly because of the advent of drones, robots, satellites, wonderful sensors out here, that are capable of collecting massive amount of data. This is one of the key components of the driving forces of technology, allowing us to collect data in fields like this that Ben uses this for his study, where we've been collecting about 30 minutes, 250, over the season, a total of 250,000 data points, that describe more or less what happened in the field through the year. Tremendous capabilities. Okay, then the second and probably the most important driving force of this technology is this one here. Advances in computational time. That we've been normally following this more since the late 60s, 70s, Moore's law that says that every 2 years we double the computer power. And then of course price comes down. But this guy changed the world. Look in that statement there that he published not too long ago. Pretty much taking that statement and putting it in the Morse scale. Computational time over the past 10 years increased 21 times. And of course getting also cheaper. And what is interesting is that here, and we're not done yet. So this is a tremendous. This is probably one of the main forces driving the this technology. And then, of course, the third one here is that, our analytics, data analytics and so on that allow us, to take our big data, look for patterns and trends and so on with fancy deep learning models and so on that allow us to make our predictions. So those are the two driving forces. And as a consequence, this is what is happening in very, very, very bright. This was the same conclusion that our panel had this morning. A bright future for AI. And look at the growth of the different sectors of the economy. In service market is leading, in value. The health market and then in banking. And then mainly this is happening because they're capable of collecting lots of data. You know, Google, you know how Google, the techniques of Google and so on. But it's interesting that all of them, in agriculture it's no exception, however the value is much lower, about a tenth of what the service market is. You know, but it's interesting that the rate is about the same for all sectors of the economy. They all grow, okay? And this is what is catchy. This is what really caught my attention and led me to put together this paper. You know, that the global, this is like the GPD of a country. You know, that the global artificial intelligence market, you know, in 2025, we're about at a half a trillion. And by 2030, you know, which is just a stone throw from us out here, it's going to triple. And then by double again in another 3 years. You know, this is a tremendous growth. This value, you know, 3.5 trillion is bigger than 80% of the GDP of most countries in the world. And all of that is happening here. You know, and the message that I'm giving to my administrators and my staff, my faculty, is that we've got to take advantage of this. It's a lot of value. You know, every year there's going to be a $500 billion worth of value created. You know, so universities, land-grant institutions, got to be part of that. That's the main message that I want to give in this presentation. Now focus on what are we doing in A&M, or what do we have to do. The challenge in agriculture, in this technology, everything is there. The sensors are there, the computers are there, technology is there, the analytics there. You know, this guy, I loved his book out here. In 1998, he said, you know, that with drowning in information, 1998 we were, now we are drowned. You know, I say the future world is for the synthesizers, integrators. You know, integrators of technology, people that are capable of taking this technology and put it together, you know, for meaningful uses. You know, so this is, and this guy was working Harvard for a while. Do you know that? And then he went to Harvard. Very good book. All right. So in 2018, I developed this graph for one of my directors, you know, trying to point out what were the competitive advantages of Texas A&M. And the competitive advantage, in my opinion, is that big data solutions. You know, that we are capable of collecting big data that no one else has. No matter how much money these companies have, NVIDIA have, they don't have that big data, and they know how to use it. So that's a huge competitive advantage. So we can participate in the loop of developing technology. You know, another competitive advantage is our computer science capabilities at universities. There, you know, and so along with those two, you know, we should be playing a strong role in developing tools. However, we are going to need these ends to complete the loop. You know, we don't have the cloud power, the computer power. We cannot compete with the media and so on in developing these tools and so on. You know, so you know that taking advantage of our of our competitive advantages and teaming up with the right partners, I think, is the way to go. Now, more specific, what are we doing in Texas A&M, AgriLife, Corpus Christi, in AgriLife? We're focusing on forecasting models, data-driven models, because of the capabilities of data, availability of data. You know, we are capable of developing these data-driven models that you know, for forecasting capabilities. That's a simple definition of what a digital twin model is. And I'm not going to go into details, but this really like this paper put together by the team, because it describes our last 6-8 years of work. It's a long paper, about 16, 18 pages, but it describes the whole process. But basically what it is just like what I described. Data collection, data processing. Of course, data collection is done by the engineers, data processing by our computer scientists, and then that green box out here develops results in the digital twins. And that's where we come in as agronomists, you know, for applications. You know, so that's basically what that paper describes and so on. and it's the process that we follow for developing the digital twins. And then, of course, the digital twins every week, that's represented by these bars at the left, give data to a certain point and prediction for the rest of the season. We use it with the learning model, and one of the things that we're predicting is yield up here, with ahead of time. And this is one of the some of the things that we're doing with it. In order of what the growers like to see, marketing, there's a possibility for carbon sequestration, and then in-season management. Now looking at a more futuristic way, not futuristic because it is there. Jose, which is present here, presented a platform out here that pretty much manages the data from the digital twins in a way that it can be used by other platforms. But this platform was presented yesterday in a poster, and then this data feeds into a program that we call Factor Cosmic that takes the digital twin models, the data processes it there, and then it's a chatbot that was also presented yesterday in the poster section by Cesar Salazar out here. For example, the question is, what does my field need growth regulator today? It goes to digital twin, develops a red line out there, gets the first derivative, and then it determines, if it needs peaks, growth regulators and how much. And then it shows on the screen up here, a map of the rates in different areas where that might be applied. A more futuristic view is this one here. Now we don't have a farmer here, we have a person with a suit. Asking the question now, what is my forecasted profit for this? The same thing, he goes out there, predicts the margins, we'll take the digital twin, predicts the yields, and then a cash flow out here, margins, and then it determines the profitability of the farm. And this is already done. Dr. Yuri Khalil is presenting this in other conferences. So what is it? Where is A&M doing to put everything together? It's proposing a agricultural innovation center. Several of us out here were members of this committee that put together this. But the idea is get together the data for crop management and livestock management, and then there's an educational component up here. But this should be kind of like the brain that we're proposing for A&M, to manage what the future of AI. And inviting, you can see everybody to participate and be part of this team. Where is the money going to come out? Well, we submitted this initial special legislative request. We're requesting every biennial $26 million. Looks like it's going to be approved. So we're going to have $13 million to distribute among our folks to carry on that this project. So I think that the future looks very bright for our group and so on, and then of course developing partnership is what we do. With that, I thank you for your attention. I think it's a beautiful area to be in, and lots of opportunities.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Juan.
Yes, sir.
Nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Question. Is that growth of AI, that the graph that you showed, is that sustainable? Is that real money, or is that virtual money?
Well, I presented it, this was an invited talk that I made in December. At that time, we had about 6 companies with over $1 trillion of value, one of them 3.5 trillion. So it's there. The money is in the hands of these companies, and these guys are going to keep on developing tools, ChatGPT and so on. The value of that declines some, but I think it's going to be there. I think this is real value. And more important, Luis, is that it's right there. It's in the next 5 years. Let's say it's not $500 billion per year. Let's say that it's a $250 billion. I think it's a lot of opportunities. you know, and we gotta be there as a land grant institution to take advantage of it.
I know you don't have 1 minute, so we gotta talk to you after. But you showed a curve on part of your digital twins where you looked at a sigmoidal curve, and you talked about the first derivative, and that gave you information. I'd like to talk to you after.
Yes, sir.
That's big, because that was like, go ahead.
Well, you know, we got all of these grids developed, you know, the growth.
Right, sure.
Part real, you know, and then parts forecasted with digital twins. So we developed the whole growth curve for normally a sigmoidal growth curve.
Right,
If you get the first derivative, you get a rate equation.
right,
And then whenever it hits for growth regulator, over 1.5 centimeter per day, you need growth regulator.
Mhm.
How much? Depending on the size. And all of that information is there in this model that these folks presented. And then from there, we come out, yes, we need it, and at this rate, for the different colors.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juan. I know we have more questions, but please talk to Juan later so we
Yeah.
keep this going.
I'm not selling the stocks of NVIDIA and so on, but I think it's there, Luis. How about you? Thank you, sir.
Sorry. You gotta jump in. It's not a lot of time. Okay. We got a lot of, you know, that was good.
Para animar.
Hello everyone. My name is Sayantan Sarkar. I'm a postdoc in Texas A&M Maryland, Corpus Christi, and my presentation is on integrating AI and multi-source remote sensing for water use efficiency of energy gain. But first, why energy gain? It's a hybrid of sugarcane species, but from an energy gain point of view, it's a newly introduced crop, relatively new. The reason is it's a high biomass yielding crop, which was suitable for biofuel production. Biofuel production in recent years has stressed more on cellulose-rich crops. So this crop is one of the highly potential candidates there. Another reason for research on this one is it helps reducing a carbon footprint. Since it has so high biomass, it's good in sequestering carbon out there. But why water use efficiency for energy cane is important? The foremost reason is a thirsty crop. It has a very long growing cycle, and especially energy cane, it's a raccooning crop. So it requires water throughout for all 12 months and later as well. And it also has a very vigorous growth. It grows really fast, so the water use is really high. Now, if we are growing it in a place where rainfall is not abundant and we are depending on irrigation, then efficient water use is critical for optimum production costs. Also, there is variability among different cultivars on that exhibit different water use efficiencies. So different cultivar uses different amounts of water for the same biomass. That's what I'm trying to say. So our objective was to integrate AI and AI using RGB and thermal arresters, proximally sense soil moisture, basically soil moisture sensors in the ground, weather data and crop biomass to quantify and compare water use efficiency of energy cane cultivars. Our study location was in West Laco, Texas. We had 7 energy cane cultivars and two check species, switchgrass and sorghum, to compare our study, compare the new cultivars that we are studying. Aerial data collection was done using a DJI drone, and our sensor was a MicaSense Atom PT. We flew using thermal, we flew on 4 days and collected and used red, green, blue, and shortwave infrared, which is thermal band for our data collection. We got a resolution of 0.5 centimeters. That was because the Aptum PT has the panchromatic band, and we use that to enhance our resolution. So, in image processing, first what we did was we took the RGB images. We used that for thresholding. So basically, we used the ratios of red by green and blue by green. If the value was less than 0.95, that was crop canopy. So that's how we came out with a crop canopy raster, a binary raster, zeros and ones. We multiplied that with our thermal raster, and we got canopy temperature. So this one, the one we see here on the right bottom, it has only energy gain. The soil is filtered out, or soil is masked out of that. Then we subtracted the ambient temperature from there to get canopy temperature depression. So canopy temperature depression is a very important phenotype of crops, because usually if the plant is transpiring good, or if it's a healthy crop, the temperature of the leaves or the temperature of the canopy is usually lower than the ambient temperature. Previous studies on different other crops have shown us that a cooler canopy means it's a healthy crop and it's growing really good. So that was our hypothesis here, and that's why we got a canopy temperature depression raster to look into our situation. We extracted canopy temperature depression and canopy temperature values using plot shape files. Then we calculated the max, mean, average, median, and 90th percentile values for further analysis or further developing our equation. For ground truthing, we used this soil sensor. It goes up to 80 centimeters and gives volumetric water content every 10 centimeters, so that's 8 values every 30 minutes throughout until it's in the ground. So that much, that was the volume of data we had. We used this to derive evapotranspiration and cumulative evapotranspiration, and that was our ground truth data. So now, why did we work with cumulative evapotranspiration? Because first of all, it showed that our parameters for canopy temperature and canopy temperature depression, they correlated really well. Another thing that we found was that the cumulative evapotranspiration calculated using the first 50 centimeters of soil moisture and not the first 80 centimeters was better. And we also got the reason why is because you can see for 50 to 80 centimeters there is barely any variation in the soil moisture. Most of the variation that the soil moisture is going up and down due to evapotranspiration or the plants taking up water and evaporating is within the first 50 centimeters of the soil. So that was the reasoning behind our cumulative evapotranspiration being calculated with 50 centimeters of moisture. So we used those parameters and we got a multiple linear regression for cumulative evapotranspiration. Our training R-square was 0.73 and the validation was 0.67. Validation is basically an unseen data. It's not 70-30. We used 3 out of 4 of our data sets for training and 1 of the other data sets which was remaining for validation. So using this model, but now where is AI here? There's no AI until now. This is the model building. This is the proof of concept for us, and then we move to our automation. So this model is in ArcGIS Pro, but we know that anything that's in ArcGIS Pro can be easily translated to Python because there is always a Python code behind it. So in this model building, we input RGB data and thermal data, and all the other thresholding and calculation of let's say canopy temperature, like the minimum values of canopy temperature, the median values, or the percentiles, all of them are developed as rasters, and those rasters are being used to calculate cumulative evapotranspiration raster in that step. Then we bring about our yield to calculate water use efficiency raster. So basically, we input all the rasters that we need, all our input rasters, the drone rasters, and in the end, we get a water use efficiency raster. Also, I would like to mention here is that the soil moisture sensors that you saw, it was not in all of our plots. It was in 24 of 108 plots. We had 108 plots in total, but only 24 had soil moisture sensors. Here, we also wanted to try one more thing. So, if we are building a model using UAV, it sometimes doesn't work on a different day. Here, what we have tried to do is use a few sensors and then extrapolate the data into the rest of the 108 plots. So this one helps there as well. This is the water use efficiency estimated for different cultivars. Here we see that two of our cultivars, TH16-22 and TH16-13, did really good in water use efficiency. And this is also supported by the fact that one of our previous studies, a paper published, actually found that TH16-22 and TH16-13 has one of the highest biomass, like dry biomass among these energy cane cultivars. So our study actually supports that fact. Therefore, we can conclude that high throughput estimation of energy cane is feasible using drones. We used multi-source inputs, which really helped our case, and also we used ArcGIS Pro Model Builder to build a model for that. In future work, we would like to try this on other crops, such as alfalfa, cotton, those things, and we would like to try other bands as well, like red and NIR, instead of, if we cannot have a trustworthy thermal, or if we don't have thermal sensor in our arsenal. And another thing would be to use Python to enhance this AI automation. We thank our funding agencies to fund our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. Any questions?
Just a quick question. How do you measure the canopy temperature?
This is a mica sensor. They have their own, they mention their own equation in their website how to calculate canopy temperature from their raster. They basically divide the pixel values by 100 and then subtract it by 273 to get the temperature in Celsius.
I have a question. How do you define like the threshold to do the soil masking?
Oh, that was based on previous studies and published papers actually. That 0.9 actually works for our case.
Thank you.
How is this to transfer this approach to other energy crops?
Yeah, I mean, we can, for our project, we are not working on that, but yes, this could be easily transferred because it's not a global model that we are talking about. We basically take data from, like, we grow some other energy crop, take data, build a model there, and then use it for that. So that would be our approach.
Yes, sir. Excellent presentation. Thank you. I missed the very beginning because I was in another room, but this is for plain cane, am I correct? So the first year crop, right? First year cane?
This one was first year of crop, yes.
Okay. Do you expect that these model would change, for example, for the raccoon crops, because it's a same perennial, so the root system is going to be different.
We need to see, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, that's a good point. We'll see definitely. We'll look into that.
In Texas, what is the typical practice? They use the rationing or?
Yes, we are rattoning our crops, yes.
And just a simple question: is that two rows of the crop in each plot or a single row?
Yes, we
Two
did,
rows.
we did 2 in each row, yes.
I think that's right.
And this furrows were 2 meters apart, 2 meters apart. Yes.
Okay, well, let's move on. Thank you very much. Okay, well, our next speaker is Dr. Ruchita Bahatani from Mississippi State University. She's going to be talking about estimating on hybrid resilience.
Good morning all. I'm Ruchita Bahatani and I'm still not a doctor. I'm a master's student actually in the Department of Plant and Cell Sciences, but I would want to be doctor one day definitely. I'm studying here in Mississippi State University. And today I'll be talking about estimating corn hybrid resiliency in Mississippi using artificial intelligence. So the outline of my presentation would follow introduction, methodology, results, future work, conclusion, and limitations. Starting with introduction. So in Mississippi, corn faced challenges because of environmental stresses such as drought and extreme temperature, which impact crop growth as well as the yield. So the varieties we are growing now will not function in next 5 years or next 10 years. And varietal trials that are traditionals are time consuming. And they are unable to cope up with the changing climate scenarios nowadays. So we have crop simulation models that overcome the challenges of traditional varietal trials, which are time consuming and as well as research constraint. So crop simulation models use advanced algorithms to predict crop growth and yield under different climate scenarios. Once we are able to simulate corn growth in different climate scenarios, it will help us to estimate the potential hybrid in future climate scenarios. For that, we need virtual varieties. So virtual varieties is a kind of demo. We will say a computer model crop, and we need genetic coefficients for those virtual varieties to function. So genetic coefficients are the genetic potential of a crop, which are represented in mathematical terms in a crop simulation model. So for every models for calibrating and validating and performing in actual field conditions, of course there is a crop. So for crop, they have some genetic potential. So first method of calibrating model is calibrating genetic coefficients and then only trying different environmental parameters. So today I will be talking about different methods for estimating genetic coefficients. So what are genetic coefficients for maize? We have two different coefficients, phenological coefficients and growth coefficients. For phenological, we have P1 and P2. I'll quickly describe this terminology because it will come along. So P1 is the expression of growth in terms of growing degree days in corn. P2 is expression of growth in terms of photoperiod. So when I'm talking about growing degree days, it means how much heat is accumulated in a day and how many days it needs to transfer from one stage to another. For example, from seedling to anthesis. So anthesis in maize is tasseling and silking. So P2 is the amount of photoperiod, that means the amount of light it needs to transfer from one physiological growth stage to another. We have two growth coefficients, G2 and G3. So G2 is number of seeds in a plant and G3 is the grain filling rate per day. We have P5, which is the expression of growth in terms of phenology as well as growth, because it is also determined based on growing degree days, but from silking to physiological maturity. So silking to physiological maturity, it's a kind of phenological event. However, for corn, cob develops at silking. and the grain filling starts from silking to maturity. So it also determines yield. That's why it's a kind of interlink between phenological coefficients and growth coefficients. So P1 and P2, since they are phenological coefficients, determine anthesis and maturity, which is flowering and maturity in corn, but it is insignificant for determining yield. Whereas P5 is the growth coefficient that determines the performance from anthesis to maturity. So for anthesis, it shows no significant difference. However, for maturity and yield, it is related with P5. For G2 and G3, there is no change in phenological events. However, with changing G2 and G3, yield is changed significantly. So my hypothesis was optimization tools can help in identifying genetic potential of a variety. So the objectives of the study are to estimate prior distribution of genetic coefficients of all varieties in DSAT pool. So DSAT is a decision support system for agro-technology transfer, which is developed by professors from Florida and Georgia along with Auburn. The next objective is to optimize genetic coefficients for phenology, which is anthesis and maturity, and yield using AI. So for methodology, before the development of AI, we use extensive field experimental trials. Nowadays, with all the data mining and all the tools developed around the world, we can do the same work with little data sets, which we call minimum data sets, requirement for DSATs. For this experiment, I have used minimum data sets to calibrate the model using GenCal and Glue. So GenCal and Glue are the genetic estimation tools embedded in DSAT. I'm using this for this presentation. I hope to explore other tools such as NMCGA, PES, and evolutionary algorithm for my future research work. So let's talk about basic genetic algorithm. So in crop breeding, so when a breeder is developing a variety, so from a pool of population, it selects its best characteristics. So it's selection, and then it goes through crossover and mutation, and it develops a certain pool. And from the F1 generation, it again selects the varieties. So repeating the process until we get the desired varieties. And then those are tested in farmer's field, those are tested in commercial field, and then only released. So this process is kind of 10 years, 15 years period of time. So with algorithm, this can be done in computers within a year or maybe within a month of time. So this is the basic genetic algorithm. So this is me collecting corn. So collecting above biomass of corn to calibrate the model. This table represents the genetic coefficients that are in DSAT pool. So DSAT has certain cultivars varieties that are already calibrated in different conditions, but not for Mississippi. That's why I am doing calibration for Mississippi. So future researchers can use those genetic coefficients for other research as well. So minimum and maximum values are there, and the average is shown in the table for all those genetic coefficients. So while calibrating, I am doing iteration based on the given interval. So as you can see, different coefficients has different intervals. So 20, why 20? Because corn accumulates 20 growing degree in growth condition of Mississippi. So these all are based on growing condition of Mississippi. So GenCal. GenCal is a genetic coefficient calculator. As I said, it's an embedded tool in DSAT. So it estimates the genetic coefficient based on sequential search method. The basic idea behind a gradient search algorithm is to achieve an optimum solution within a predefined search space. So when I'm saying within a predefined search space, for GenCal we get, so this is a start cultivar for you. So based on this, estimate my potential. So we'll use start cultivar, as you can see over here, and then it will iterate based on phenology first. So it will match the anthesis and maturity date first, and then it will match the yield, and then give you the final genetic coefficients. Whereas glue is, the mechanism is slightly different. It's generalized likelihood uncertainty estimate. So it uses a Bayesian the prior distribution first, and it will fit it into a multivariate normal distribution. So based on prior distribution of genetic coefficient, it estimates the posterior distribution, and based on the optimum value for each parameter, it will give you the genetic coefficients. So here it doesn't use any star cultivar. So it will go through the genotype pool of GenCat, and it will look into all the coefficients available in the pool. And so it will form, actually it will not form a curve like this, it will give you a value, but for representation I am developing a normal curve so everybody can understand. And as you can see, these are the values. So these are the values for G2. So this is an example for G2. So the G2 values is from 300 around 990. It will give you certain values and the frequency distribution. So based on this is the optimum value for my cultivar in Mississippi condition. Yes. Oh, sorry. So this is the optimum value for G2. So we'll do this process again and again for all the genetic coefficients and in combination, and then yield the final genetic coefficient. I use the final genetic coefficients to simulate topsoil, stem weight, and pod weight for corn in Mississippi. The dots, triangular dots, are my observed values of biomass, and then the line is the simulated. So as you can see, it is doing pretty good during calibration. I still need to validate this from summer research work. So the future work is definitely trying to explore different tools and see which one is the best. And my plan is to conduct field experiment this summer. I will be planting next week to collect data for model training and evaluation. My plan is to generate multiple scenarios of genetic expression for future climate change using different RCPs and SSPs scenarios defined by IPCC. And then the trained model will be used for robust management strategies by developing a matrix scenario and then optimize the agronomic practices. So we are using, varietal trials are using 180 kilogram of nitrogen and then 240. What about in between? So I will be defining the variable in between using matrix design. We conclude that the field experiment is exhausting, so models expedite the varietal development process, and GenCat and Blue are two AI-based tools, and NMCGA will be used later. Of course, the limitation is uncertainties in data and biasness in process and structure of the model. That's why I want to explore more tools. I would like to acknowledge my professor, Dr. Prakash Kumar Jha, which is in between, and my committee members, along with MEPHIS and USDA, which are the funding sources, and all my members of Mississippi Agrobiological Collaborative. Thank you.
Obviously, my doctor predictive model was hallucinating. I apologize for that. Any questions? Okay, one, please.
Are you planning to do any genetic feasibility studies with the model, like recommending breeders, based on your growth analysis there, what parameters they should be looking at for selection?
Okay, for breeders, definitely they can see the genetic coefficients. It's not like I am recommending, but they can keep it as a baseline to develop their varieties. So I'm not developing varieties, of course, so they can keep my research as a baseline. As well as it's very important for physiologists who wants to see the climate change impact on corneal development or any other growth processes during the process, and it will also be helpful for yield prediction.
Thank you.
Other questions?
You mentioned about climate change. Are you planning to run some stochastic model and feed into the predictions? To see some scenarios?
Yes, so his question was, am I planning to use some stochastic model and then climate change scenarios? Yes, definitely. Currently, I am looking into RCP scenarios 4.5, 8.5, and then 2.6. I am exploring SSP datasets currently, but it's difficult to gather all those data sets for SSP. They are not coordinates adjusted, so yeah. And one of the professors from geosciences is downscaling those to 1 kilometer data sets. So I'm waiting for him, and then I will use SSP as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Rashida.
Very good.
Sure, I think
Yeah, but it's different.
I graduated.
Okay. Our next speaker is Ahmad Tulsi. He's going to be talking about Mandarin orange ripeness parameters prediction using AI. When you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Ahmed Tulsi. I'm a master's student from Tennessee Tech University. And this is the outline of my presentation. So for the introduction, we knew orange fruit, and you can make orange fruit with oranges. As a matter of fact, they serve oranges right now. And you can also make that into fruit cup. And if you already ate the fruit, you can utilize the seed and the skin for essential oil. And you can also make it into vitamin because it has abundance of bioflavonoids content. Now, if you go to the market, you want to buy an orange, you want to know the sweetness of that orange, right? And to do that, you need to peel that, you need to taste it. If it is good, you're happy, you buy it. If it is not good, you put it back. This is not good for the business. For the producer will lose profit for this destructive way. So we need a non-destructive way, and researchers already have methodology for non-destructive approaches. I think all of us already use skin color. If we knew that it's still green, we will not choose that oranges. But if we knew that there is an orange color, we will automatically pick that. But orange color does not mean it's sweet and not sour. So yes, this method is cost effective but less accurate. And if we want accurate methods, we can use spectroscopy device. But this device, the first device, Felix, it costs around 6K or even 10K, which is very costly. And if we want the cheaper model of spectroscopy device, you can buy the second one, which is a couple $100, probably 300 to 400. But the problem is you need to do the data analysis. You need to build your model by yourself. And it is not possible to deploy it into large-scale industry system. If you want to deploy it into industry system, you can use hyperspectral imaging device. That device, only the sensor probably costs around 20K, which is very costly. And it is not even the full setup. Still, you need to do the data analysis and build the model by yourself. So we need an alternative which is cost effective but also accurate. And this is what we came at. So we use ring UV LED. We use 365 nanometers wavelength in here. And we also use white LED. The reason why we use UV LED in here, because in previous research, by using UV imaging, we can have more information, and we will see that in a minute. So first, we took the image by using white LEDs, and then after that, we will take the image using the UV light. So we will have two images on the same fruit. And this is the result. So the first row is the color images taken by white LEDs. The second row is using the UV light. And I want us to focus on the second row. So if you see here, there is a blue spot. There's a blue spot on these two images, on these two rows. That blue spot can only appear in the fruit that transitioning from immature to mature. And the reason why there is a blue spot here, it is linked to a cuticle. Cuticle is the protective layer. It is a waxy protective layer around the fruit surface. So the reason why we don't see it in the green orange, because in the green orange, the protective layer is still intact. And when the fruit ripens, it will thin out, it will crack, it will decay, and most importantly, it will undergo compositional changes. That's why when we put it under the UV light, we can see the blue spot. And the blue spot here have relationship with the destructive data. So we use three metrics. We use soluble solids content is the metric for sweetness. So the higher the value, it more sweetness. And we also use acidity and firmness. And the more blue spot in an orange, the soluble solid content SSC goes up and the acidity and firmness goes down. So we have a strong relationship between the images and the destructive data. So we can model based on this information. So in the model development, we use color images to train the model and also the fluorescence images. But we take this another step further. So we combine these images that usually a deep learning model, we use RGB images, which is 3 channel. So we use 6 channel of input. The reason for this, because our hypothesis, if the model learn using these 2 images, it will have more information to learn. So we will have more predictive performance. So the prediction have 3 targets: SSC, acidity, and firmness. For the parameter setting, we use FastAI. Then we compare the optimizer using Ranger and Adam. For the image size, we use 512 by 512, and also we use progressive. So we learn the model from 128, then gradually increase the image size to 512 by 512. And the result here is that the combination of both reflectant and fluorescence have higher predictive performance and also lower error. And in acidity performance, it doesn't happen like that. By using only fluorescence images, it can outperform the reflectant and even the combination. And in some cases, the combination model even underperform compared to just reflectant imaging. And in firmness performance comparison, still just the same like acidity, it have the performance of fluorescence imaging is better even compared to the combination data. So the conclusion here, compared to reflectant imaging that can only capture surface level information, UV imaging can capture internal quality better than the reflectant imaging, and it also has a strong relationship with the destructive data. And by using 6 channels of input, combination of both, we can have best prediction performance with SSC, but not with acidity and firmness. So the key takeaway here is fluorescence imaging is more than just an alternative. It is a superior non-destructive method for internal quality orange prediction. Thank you very much. That's it from me.
So we have quite a bit of time for questions.
Yeah.
Can you repeat again the fluorescence light that you use?
Okay.
Like the nanometer?
Oh yeah, yes. For the UV,
Yeah.
we use ring UV LED from Japanese company called CCS. So it is 365 nanometers wavelength.
Just following up on this, is the image acquisition happens in a containerized system? And if that's the case, how do you think this could be scalable to make it usable for the industry?
Actually, this is already implemented in Japan, and it's already implemented in Japanese industry,
Okay.
not in US.
Okay.
I've never seen it in the US, but they did this in the Japanese company, and they also use conveyor belt, but not in our case. We just use a frame, and we do not use moving part at all.
Okay.
So ultimately, are you considering to apply this technology on robotic harvesters?
We could, but at the time we wrote this paper, we do not have plan for that, but we could do that, yes. Because UV light and the camera, everything was cheap, so
Yes.
you can definitely apply that in the robot.
The, one thing that I'm not sure if can happen or not, but imagine that we are in a sunny, bright day.
Oh.
So what happens? Will the sun wash out some of the UV light off the fruit, or what will happen?
Yes, I think it will definitely wash out the UV light, because in here we use black cloth to cover up the frame, so the UV light will not goes out and will not have exposure from the sunlight. So definitely the environment needs to be containable.
Maybe powerful LEDs or powering canopy.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions? Join me to congratulate you all. So we can take a bit of a breather.
Yeah.
Our next speaker. Okay, well, thanks everyone for staying with us until the end. Our next speaker is Nsia Basi. She was presenting a great poster yesterday at the pleasure of talking with her about how she's studying, looking at how cows get hot.
Hi everyone, welcome to this presentation. My name is Sebasi Udondian. I am a graduate student of Peer Review A&M University, and I'll be speaking on the topic developing an AI-based system for the automatic characterization of behavioral phenotypes for dairy cows relevant to thermotolerance. So that whole thing you just heard, in a nutshell, simply means that we are looking out to see how cows respond to heat stress based on the particular breed or type or their physical appearances. So on here, we'll be starting with the background, and then I'll go on to data preparation. I'll talk about the data annotation. I'll talk about how objects were extracted and how a CNN model was trained to identify the cows, and how the identified cows are being tracked and behaviors attached to tracked cows. And at the end of this project, we have a user interface for the users, which would likely be farmers or any cattle lovers who will be working with tracking cows' identification and behavior, so they can upload videos and get to see the behaviors of the cows. So here's the background. This project basically introduces an advanced AI-based system designed to enhance dairy cow health management by automating the detection and analysis of heat stress behaviors. And the system integrates computer vision, machine learning, and real-time data processing to monitor and analyze cow behavior accurately within a farm environment. Here's the methodology. So first, videos are collected, videos of recordings taken from a natural ranch somewhere in Texas. And these videos are converted. They are taken in DAT format, so you needed to convert them to MP4 formats because MP4 is widely acceptable and they are easier to process. And from these videos, images are extracted, and these extracted images would be images of cows and some infrastructures that are being considered, like the water tub and the brush. So these extracted images are annotated using RoboFlow. RoboFlow is software for labeling images. And at the end of the labeling, the labeled images are trained using the YOLO V8 model for object detection. So at the end of training a YOLO V8 model, we actually have images with bounding boxes. So you'd have a cow with a bounding box around it and a label on it saying this is a cow. You have the brush with a bounding box. You have the water tub with a bounding box. And this, the identified cows are cropped just to reduce the noise on the background. The water tub is also cropped. The brush is cropped as well. And the cropped cows are clustered into groups depending on their physical appearances, and that we did using a clustering type. And then the data, the clustered data, we used it to train CNN models to identify cows and assign a unique ID to a specific cow based on the cluster that we had earlier on. And with the yellow-beard model and the CNN model, we're able to build an application that uses some algorithms like the deep sort algorithm to track a particular cow, and we're also able to assign behaviors to this cow. So if a cow is drinking for 5 minutes, it's going to show that that particular cow is drinking, and it's going to show the duration as 5 minutes. And this is made into an actual application. So at the end of the day, all of this data is logged into a database, and it's with this, we have a front end that queries the database to get the outputs that's stored in, that's shown, displayed on the dashboard for the user. And this information really helps to make informed decisions as to the well-being of the cow. Because how well a cow drinks or how well a cow brushes is an indication of how the cow is reacting to heat stress. So we collected data, like I said, we collected data at 2 points. The first data set was collected with a camera from the side. You can see the camera on the side. And then the second data set was collected using a different angle. You can see the top-down angle of the camera. And this is just to create variation in images that we are collecting and we are training the model with. Initially, the model was trained using dataset 1, and with dataset 2, we tested the model and the results were really close. So that's an indication that the model generalizes very well, especially using unknown data. We use some tools like Python, Jupyter Notebook, and we already talked about conversion of the files, and these are just specifics about the data sets that we collected for dataset 1 and dataset 2. So for dataset 1, we had 3,400 videos, and for dataset 2, we had 5,500 plus videos. This is what the annotation looks like, the RoboFlow. You can see it has those images, those bounding boxes with the labels up there, saying cow, water top, and brush where necessary. And these are the extracted images that we trained using the CNN model. And at the end of labeling, training a yellow-beard model, this is what we have. You can see the cow ID. I'm not sure how to use it.
It doesn't work on the screen.
Oh, okay. You can see the cow ID, and you can see the activity. The yellow part shows brushing. The green part would be for drinking. So you can see it identifies the cow, and then it detects the cow's behavior, detects the cow activity at the time, and it also records how long the activity goes on for. And this is the system architecture. Basically, we just have everything that I've already said, where we extracted images from videos and labeled them, and then we trained models. We trained the yellow-beard model, we did clustering, and we trained a CNN model. With these two models, the yellow-beard model and the CNN model, we were able to use a Python script to come up with some algorithms that help us to perform this detection and tracking. And at the end of it all, we have a user interface for the user. So the user gets to use the application without needing to bother about whatever goes on from layer 1 to layer 3. And this shows the model evaluation results. When we're working with data set 1, you can see we had 96% classification accuracy, 97% recall, and F1 97%. And for data set 2, we had pretty close results as well. So it just shows that the model is performing optimally. And this is just an example of what the clusters look like and the ID. You can see the clusters, predicted clusters that we got from the CNN clustering, from the K-means clustering that we used, and then you can see the cow ID. You can see the similarity that brings them together, that brings them into the same cluster. And this just shows what happens from your viet at the point where the video is uploaded to the output that just comes up with labeled cows and brush and water top. And this is what the tracking and activity detection looks like. So you can see this cow with ID 12 is brushing for 0.433 seconds. So what you get to see on the dashboard at the end of the day is this data presented to you in a tabular format, just like we have here. So this is what the user interface looks like. The user gets to upload a video from that point that says upload, and then it performs an inferencing, and at the end of it all, we have that dashboard that records the cow ID, records the cow activity, and how long the activity is going for. And in conclusion, we have a system that meets accuracy requirements for effective livestock monitoring, enhances farm management and animal welfare, and provides a robust tool for farm operators to improve productivity and livestock health. We also have a system that creates deep learning interface for detecting cows, brushes, water tanks, and video feeds, and it incorporates neural networks like YOLO-viet and CNN for individual identification and clustering. And this system has really high accuracy in detecting objects and recognizing behaviors, and it tracks the behaviors dynamically in a very effective way. So in future, we are working on detecting more behaviors, agnostic behaviors like headbutts, and then we're going to see if the headbutt leads to displacement, it will be recorded. If it doesn't lead to displacement, it will be recorded, and we'll also detect fighting and pushing. And all of these are in a bid to provide the farmers with a tool that helps them monitor the well-being of the cattle easily and more effectively. Questions?
Thank you very much. I have two silly questions. The first one, why don't we measure directly how hot the body temperature of the cow is rather than its behavior once it's hot? And then my second question is, what can we do once we know at the end of the day that the cow has been hot all day and that the production has been affected and the cow has been stressed for one day? And I'm not a cow person, so maybe these are dumb questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a cow person either. I'm a computer scientist, but I will try and answer the questions. So what we have currently ongoing are like traditional means of observing these cows to see how hot they are or how hot they are not, but that has proven to not be very effective. So, but this is offering an automated system that gives you those information, those data on the fly, and it saves time, it saves resources as well. And when it comes to what is going to happen if the cow has been observed to be hot for too long or for a period of time, well, I'd say that this is built for the farmers to make use of, and I'm really, really sure that they know what steps to take when that happens, because I am a computer scientist, and I'm providing a tool to provide data for the farmers to help them to make informed decision as this.
In Kentucky, the cows where I work, the cows we don't need this system. They get into the pond when they're hot. There's no need for AI, but I guess I don't have a pond access here.
What type of activity you are looking for to identify whether the cow is heated or not? Because dairy cows, drink more than 100 liters of water per day. Does it mean if the cow goes to the watering trough, does it mean that she is hot? What type of activity you are looking for?
So specifically, this application is built to detect drinking and brushing behaviors. And those are just for starters. We're testing it to see if it is able to detect these behaviors accurately, and so far the model proves to be detecting these behaviors accurately. And so we are going ahead to make it detect more behaviors. And like I said, this would still be providing vast data for the farmers, for the animal scientists to make informed decisions. Yeah.
So I might have missed it, but if you are using a database, what kind of database are you using to collect the data from different cameras?
Can you say that again?
Are you using any database to store all this information?
To store the information
Yes.
that's being
It's
collected?
collected.
Yes, definitely. When the behaviors are detected, they are being collected into a database. Right now I'm using SQLite 3, sorry. And that's the database that forms the back end of the application. So what happens is that the front end basically just queries that database, and then it comes up with the data on the screen for the user to see.
It's a very short question. You mentioned the database as videos. You said you had videos, right? You recorded videos.
The data set.
How long those videos are?
So the video length varies. I have videos up to 3 minutes long. I have videos up to 4 minutes long. I have videos that are just 30 seconds long.
So when you mentioned 1,500 videos, that's all, each of those videos are in different length?
Yes, various lengths.
So just to give us some perspective, I was talking to someone who works on wild bison, and they were estimating what is the effect on the body size of the bisons, the effect of raising temperatures, and they were talking about 115 kilograms per increase in degrees the bisons are predicted to lose. Obviously, this is different. You care about milk production. Do you have a number equivalent to this, or what is going to be the effect of temperature increase on milk production? Do you know this? Just to give the audience a perspective of how big the problem is.
I may not have this information.
Okay. But I guess it's important.
But it's going to, according to the climatic predictions, there is going to be decline in milk production from 2050s to 2080s, and that would be largely due to heat stress on the dairy cows, and that's what informed this research work.
Going back to the question, the first question, could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on why is this easier or better than just simply measuring the temperature of the cow with either temperature gun or a temperature camera or a device that is like eaten by the cow? Why do you think this is better? And I don't know.
Okay, thank you for that question. So this provides automated real-time data for the farmers to make use of. And if you're using this application, you do not have to wait for the situation to get bad or terrible. You can easily just spot some symptoms. If a particular cow, because it is tracking individual cows and it's detecting their behaviors, so you are monitoring that particular cow for as long as the system runs, and you're able to see changes in this behavior. So if that particular cow is drinking much more than it was drinking, then it's a call for attention. What's going on? It's drinking much more than it was drinking. Or if it's drinking less, it still prompts you to want to look that way a bit more, because why is it drinking less than it was drinking before? So this is providing really good insights to help in decision making.
I mean, do you have the frequency before? How do you know whether it is less or more? Because frequency of drinking depends on the production level of the animal. High producing animals drink a lot and goes frequently to the watering trough. Unless otherwise you have a baseline for that, how do you, I mean, it's better to look different behaviors than setting up the drinking frequency as a detection for behavioral change.
So first, this was testing the model with drinking and brushing behaviors. So it's more like we're starting with just two behaviors and we are expanding to make the application to detect more vast behaviors. And in answering the question as to being able to tell whether the cow is drinking much more or the cow is not drinking much more, at this point we do not really need past data. I mean, from the point where the system starts working, the system is tracking how much the cow is drinking. So it changes. So at the end of the day, we are able to have past data to compare with. Do you follow what I'm saying? At the point where the system starts, it records the activity of that cow from that point. And then it goes on. If the activity is changing, it records it too. So we have many different data points to compare with, and we're able to tell whether it's drinking too much or it's not drinking too much. But this whole thing is not solely about drinking. This is kind of like a prototype. So we are able to get it to detect drinking effectively. We're able to get it to detect brushing effectively. It means the model has learned well enough so we can advance into trying to detect other behaviors, which is the point where we are right now.
I think I'll just add what you're saying. The major contribution of this study, in my understanding, is that being able to track cows to do one action.
Yes.
And that action as a sample, you picked it as brushing and drinking water. So it could be maybe they are getting bird. If you train it, maybe it will be in the future that could be identified. Or if an animal is sick, probably there's another behavior you might train. But the major thing, in my opinion, is that this cow is this in the video and it does this. So the rest is just feature level.
Yeah, so we're also going to look into detecting if the cow is ill, if the cow is lying, like some post estimations like that.
If that was the intention, I would not have any question, because identification was not her point at this time. So that's why, because my background is animal science, I know how animals behave. So when she said about that, so it's very difficult. For instance, if she did her experiment on beef animals, I will not have any question. But in the case of dairy cows, it is related to drinking water. That's my
I'm
question.
not, that's my understanding. I'm sharing.
Yeah, identification was-
scientist.
No, I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
talk
why
about,
it's
I didn't
okay.
talk about identification, it's a big part of
Identification
it.
is identification.
I mentioned-
I'm
Well,
aware.
I think
I didn't talk about it.
we don't have to agree, but I think this is all good feedback, absolutely. And we also have to remember, and probably we're not telling you anything new, that behavior might be a good way of measuring thermal tolerance or thermal stress, because different conditions, the same heat doesn't affect the same way at the same cow. If a cow is feeding, for example, in tall fescue that is infected with an endophyte, then it reduces the stress tolerance. So looking at behavior instead of just simply the temperature, and I'm not a cow person, by the way, but I hear a lot about this in Kentucky where there is a problem with tall fescue infected grass. Anyway, thanks very much. Thank you very much for your great presentation and giving us the opportunity to discuss this way. Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming today, and this is all for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was, me and Prakash doing a
Instead of doing it